All right, here we are. It is Dr. Vibe, award-winning host of Epic Conversations. First time hosting a conversation on Get Vocal. Been hearing about this platform for a number of weeks, had some conversations with the people at Get Vocal, and they've been bugging me to get on Get Vocal. So I'm here. I am here now. And I see there's some people in the room, joint specialists. I see that you're in the room. Great to have you here. Okay, I got something frozen here. Okay, we had a bit of a freeze there for a few seconds, but we are good. And just gonna send out some hosting conversation. Still exists. So I'm just sending it out on my social media channels. I do see that, again, joint specialist, I am here. So definitely jump on in and get this conversation. Excuse me, let's make it happen. And I also am broadcasting live right now on YouTube, which is amazing. Just want to see something else. If anything, I'm just fooling around on this broadcast a little bit. I thought I'd have an interesting conversation topic. If people don't jump in, hey, people don't jump in. I'm just seeing if it's on any other platforms. Okay, it looks like it's at least on YouTube. That we know for sure. Fantastic. Hey, Stephen, what is up? Thanks for stopping by. If you want, jump on a seat and let's have a good conversation on does democracy still exist? Greetings. Yes, greetings to you, Stephen. Thanks. Oh, you can't come on? No problem. Do you have any takes about this subject at all, Stephen? Does democracy still exist? I'd appreciate hearing them, and I could certainly respond or give my take on what you have to share. I believe you're based in the United States, so very interested to hear about democracy going on in the U.S. I'm based here in Canada, in Scarborough, which is a suburb of Toronto, and we're always wanting to hear what's going on in the United States in regards to democracy, social, political, etc., etc. So I'm just going to type out some more things, invite people onto the conversation. So just bear with me a second here. Okay. Okay. The idea of democracy still exists. The execution is always that of a republic. Now, I like that take, and it's interesting. It's interesting doing this test on Get Vocal. I see periodically my image comes on, but my live shot does not come on. So, Stephen, are you seeing that also? Because right now I'm just seeing my image, not me live. So I'd appreciate if you give me some feedback on that. But I will get to your comment in just a second. I think that's, yes, the thought still exists. The execution, that's a whole different conversation because it's certainly got boggled down. Okay, having some fun here with this. Okay. Okay, we're having some technical challenges here with, okay, we're back. Yes, sir, talking back and forth between live and a still image. Okay, I appreciate that feedback. I'll certainly make the powers that be at Get Vocal aware of that. Getting back to your comment, there's a
Okay, so I've still got my camera covered because I'm not camera ready.
Okay,
And
that's no problem.
yeah, you'll see that my screen, much like yours, will also toggle back and forth between my camera and a still image.
Right?
I think they might be testing the sensitivity uh, on the camera. If they stream a live image, it uses more bandwidth than putting up your still image.
Right.
So it might just be sensitivity in whatever they're utilizing.
Okay. No, well, first of all, I appreciate you jumping in, like whether it's comment or live. That's appreciated, not taken for granted. Also, I appreciate your comments in regards to the idea of democracy still exists. I agree. The idea exists. The reality, I think it's a whole different take.
Sure. The idea of democracy, the idea is that we're still a democracy in the United States. The reason I say we act more like a republic or really any living democracy, as soon as you have a separation of classes, really you have a republic. Um, and a republic, for sake of this example, I'm referring to you're nearing a monarchy. And the reason it's not a monarchy is we have no one leader, no one ruler. What we have is a ruling class, and we all know that in the United States to be the upper 1%.
Right.
Most socially savvy Americans understand that the media itself is a propaganda tool more than it is an information. Well, not more than, but every bit as much as it's an information outlet. I know the art and the science of buying ads and stories and screen time, and I know that the politicians do this. Once you incentivize a leadership role, it's irresistible. It's the ruling class that makes this a republic and not a true democracy. It's the illusion that the lower classes financially really have as much say as they think. We have to have unity in the lower classes before there's any consequence to the upper classes.
Well put. And I really like how you brought out there's the aspect of democracy and there's the aspect of a republic.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a blurred delineation. There's nothing that's other than fear of the people, which is the way it should be. The only thing that's keeping us from being a modern day monarchy is fear of an uprising. And really, I think I don't remember who said it. One of our founding fathers says that when a government lives in fear of its people, there's civility. When the people live in fear of their government, there's tyranny.
Well put. Well put. Very much so. That's well put. Do you feel at all that there may be an uprising in the future in the United States, in the near future, a civil uprising?
Well, it's in terms of civil unrest, that's upon us now.
Right.
What's bizarre is I'm an independent with associates on both sides of the fence.
Yep.
And everyone disowns what's taking place in the extremes. And by that I mean no one sides with. You've got the conservatives and the liberals. Now, when you have a liberal that goes way to the extreme, they're called a radical.
Yeah.
When you've got a conservative to the extreme, they're called a reactionary. Now, the fact of the matter is, you haven't heard the term reactionary at all in the press. And the bulk of that being, number one, lack of education. No one knows. If you were to say reactionary, no one would know what that means. If you say extreme right winger, that's the neo-Nazi label. That's the radical right, if you will.
Yeah.
But nobody takes into consideration the idea of what it means to be a reactionary. See, a liberal wants progress, wants things moving forward. A reactionary or a conservative wants things to stay pretty much the way they are, keep the foundation the same. A radical wants to move things forward as quickly and as well as you can see emotionally at this time as possible. The reactionary wants things to go back to the way they were in another time period, another era, another slot, and unfortunately also emotionally. A lot of emotions involved on the outskirts, on the extremes. The extremists are what the problem is. I think there's a lot of finger pointing and blaming unnecessarily. Not that it isn't, and not that it's not justified in some instances, but there's so much bizarre behavior taking place on both sides that to get into the blame game is to stifle any potential for civility. The minute you stop taking the eye off what you're doing and start focusing on what others are doing, you kind of lose the game. You lose the personal self-management. And that comes back to a phrase. I've heard Gandhi quoted a dozen times, and I'm not sure if it belongs to Gandhi or the Dalai Lama, but everybody's getting credit for it now. And that's everybody wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves. And as you move towards the extreme parties, that's exactly what you're seeing. You're seeing individuals that are obviously personally mismanaged, going out in the street in hordes, and their voices are being heard there. What's not taking place is the personal self-management that should have kept them at home, lobbying their political leaders, giving some sort of call to action that's meaningful. They're out there wasting time, and they're doing it emotionally, and the mob mentality kicks in on both ends of things, and there's no potential for anything positive to come out of it. And we could say, you look at the 60s, and we talk about the movements and the riots and the marches and the uprisings in the 60s, and there's very little really that we could say changed as a result. We've, here we are 50 years later, and we're exhibiting the same behavior we exhibited 50 years ago. What really we accomplished? I mean, we have iPhones now.
Oh, and I really appreciate the depth of what you're sharing, and it's fantastic. A conversation piece that comes to me to ask you, I guess, two-part. Why has civility vanished, and what were the causes of civility vanishing to make now democracy such for lack of a term, out of control these days, in your opinion?
All right, so this it's kind of tough, but it all comes back to precept and principle. If you find where the foundation is, you might be able to understand what the people that laid the foundation were looking for. Why did they build a foundation on this particular hill? What were they aspiring to? What can we see from this hill? This hill, what's the vantage point that possibly led someone to build something in that place? It's called Gestalt, and this isn't the essence of finding what works or what doesn't, but why it works, why it start or where it started, and what are the components that that led to its success and eventual demise. Um, a neat guy kind of walked me through this. A guy by the name of Blaine Sweat. Blaine was an interesting character. I think he stands about 6'7". He's kind of quiet, meek in spirit, absolute workaholic. And I was working with Blaine in a restaurant in Orlando. Now, the thing that fascinated me about Blaine was his focus to the detail of things in designing a concept startup. Blaine could tell you what the carpet fiber on the floor was, the adhesive that was necessary to stick to the padding they had laid. He could tell you the weight of the lamps in the ceiling, the caliber of screws necessary to hold them in that particular building material in the ceiling, the amplitude that was necessary to run the 50 yards or 50 feet from the back of the restaurant to the center dining room. He knew absolutely everything about it. Well, it turns out this guy, Blaine, was also the man who invented what became the Olive Garden for Darden. His market research was a guy named Roger Thompson who went into the market and looked and saw, there's room in the American market for a casual Italian dining restaurant. And the qualifier to that was if you wanted Italian food in America coming through the 60s, 70s, and into the early 80s, you were either going down to the corner and grabbing a slice of pizza from the counter, or you were putting on a tuxedo and going to a high-end Italian restaurant. There was nothing in between that. That was national. It didn't occur. You had mom and pop diners here and there that would come and go, but nothing across the country. So Blaine went to work. He invented the Olive Garden. From the screws that hold the lamps in the ceiling to When You're Here, Your Family, to the Alfredo recipes, to soup salad and breadsticks in unlimited quantities. Everything you know about the Olive Garden came out of this one man's mind. Now, back to Gestalt. Do the components work or don't they? He explains it like this. You look at an object and you see this. The object has 4 legs. It's got a flat top, and it's got either a back or a front to it. So you can determine, okay, so it's a table. All right, we'll call it a table. All right, but then why is that other piece there? Okay. So now we know. All right, there's a back there. It's for support. We'll call this a chair. Obviously it's a chair. It's got 4 legs to support it, so it's sturdy. It's got a place to sit, and it's got something to support your back. So by looking at random object, you kind of deconstruct it and think about what are each of these pieces used for, and then you can figure out what it is. When you do that with a government, and you look at all the individual components, you could say, okay, we've got a militia to protect the people. Okay, then we've got emergency response to cater to the people in their time of need. Well, what else do the people need? Well, you've got to find a way, number one, to pay for the emergency responders. We've got to find a way to pay for the militia. How do we go about doing that? Well, let's tax businesses. All right, so we tax businesses. Now the businesses are they're getting heavily taxed because they're paying the whole load. And they say, well, wait a minute. We're paying for all these people. All right, so you spread the tax now. You spread the tax burden. Um, Now you're gonna broaden. Well, what else do the people need? Well, they need someone to teach their kids. Uh, their mom and dad are going out working. Mom's definitely not qualified to teach. Dad, he's out digging ditches. He's not a teacher. All right, so now we've got public schooling. We've got taxes. We've got revenue coming in. Well, we're protecting the people. We're serving the people. We're teaching the people. Um, got to feed the people. People need food. Well, how are we going to feed the people? Well, all right, so now we need farmers. So now we're incentivizing farmers to sell their crops. Now the farmers they're already out there. They're making a living, but they're only growing enough food to feed their own families. We want this to be bigger. We want to make sure that everyone has ample food, and not everyone has to farm. So now you've got commerce, right? You're protecting the people. You're feeding the people. You're teaching the people, and you can serve the people because emergency responders. What else do you need? Well, you could pretty much stop there and be done with government because you've reached a point in your Gestalt thinking where the needs of the people are met. The needs of the people are met. Now all we need to do is assign people to run these various organizations. All right, so you've got Bob. Yeah, Bob's he's got a successful farm. He's the most successful farmer. Yeah, let's have Bob run things. All right, so Bob's going to run everything. Bob's getting kind of old. Yeah, he's a little senile. He likes to drink. Makes a couple bad decisions here and there, but basically Bob's doing a good guy. Jerry, on the other hand, says, this guy Bob is messing everything up. I could do better. Jerry lets people know, look, I can do better than Bob. Take it to a vote. Take a vote. They vote out Bob. Jerry's now in charge. Now, Jerry's great at emergency services. He gets the firemen are getting there on time. The police are getting there on time. But man, those kids are dumb. I mean, they're coming home. They can't read. Blah blah blah. You can kind of imagine where I'm going with this. So you're going to try to now improve schooling. You're going to try to improve farming. You're going to try to improve the police. You're going to try to improve the fire services. And then it grows, of course. Then you've got healthcare. You've got Doc Brown in every town. And you get to a place where, well, not everyone can afford a Doc Brown. And if you stick with just the basic necessities, government is then really simple with little bitty complications here and there that you adjust and adapt with. But basically, we've got someone to take care of the food, someone to take care of the police, emergency rescue service, healthcare to a degree, to what they can afford, and teaching, education. You're done. Can you think of anything else that a citizen might need?
There's hundreds of things that citizens need, like food. I think the basics like food, shelter, protection. Some people would say a job. Like there's a number of different things.
Okay,
I hope that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, so we're going to add to that. Well, I said we had the military to protect the people. Then fire department, police department to enforce the laws. Fires, emergency rescue, teacher to teach our kids. Housing at this simple state, we'll assume that people were building their house, but we'll jump forward and say they're not. So okay. They do need housing. So now we've got a vocation. We've got builders. We've got builders, we've got doctors, we've got engineers, we've got scientists. We've got all of these things. And, you regulate each of these departments, and you start to complicate things a little more. You know, we've gone from Bob to Jerry, but now we've got a Bob and a Jerry that are competing in each one of these governing arenas. So we need a Bob and a Jerry to compete, to govern the military, to govern the police, to govern the fire department, to govern labor. And, well, yeah, and at that point, that's it. That's the growth of government. Now, how it got to the point where we're this big to really only to handle a handful of things. I would submit this to you, that it's less than 10 things that the average household needs from the government.
Yeah.
But there are more than 10 departments in the government. So what we've got is superfluous spending that, when you look at it in terms of Gestalt, does it work? Well, what is it? And you go back to the essence. What we have now is not a working representation of the model that we might have started with. There's too much going on, too many moving parts, too much waste, too many components, and it's really a cash grab once you get away from the essential duties of government: the military, police, fire, farming, housing, and medicine. So that's 6 things. The 6 things that every person is going to need in their lifetime. Everything else, for all intents and purposes, is waste.
Right. Okay. You know what? I love how you've broken that down to 6 things, because I think if every household had those 6 basics, I think we'd have more civility in what we call a so-called democracy right now. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. Well, I'm not going to keep you on for too long, Stephen, but I do. Now, you provided some really good thought process, and I have learned from you, especially those 6 things. I hope I have permission to use them in other conversations, but I will give you as the originator of those 6 things.
And you know what? If you forget to credit me, no harm done.
Well, you know, I do like to give people credit. That's just the way I am.
Well, thank you for that, sir.
No problem. So I'm not going to go on for too much longer, because it's just you and I know you're on Get Vocal a lot, but I did this to do one of these to just see what it's all about. And I certainly will cycle back with the powers that be at Get Vocal and share, the technical aspects. But thank you for stepping in and providing some great content and thought process.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for letting me join you here.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? The mic and the screen is always open for you on the Dr. Vibe show. So anytime you want to jump in, please feel free, because you have a lot of great stuff to share.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you on the channels.
Absolutely. I'm just after you jump off, I'm going to just sign off and call it an evening. So you can stay on if you want, or you can listen to me sign off and just say, it is Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. One thing I will say, since I'm on Get Vocal, I have done over 2,000 epic conversations over the last almost 11 years. My conversations are syndicated on a number of different platforms, like YouTube, also the Good Men Project. There's iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. They also have syndication on an online station in New York City called WJMS Radio, and I've just finished an agreement to distribute my content on Mile High Radio out of Denver, Colorado. So things are growing, and for those, and I'm actually going to do another broadcast soon on Get Vocal. You know what? Should I make? Okay, I'll put in a little announcement here and make it bigger. I'm now just been given the award, the Innovators Award for 2018 is coming up at the Canadian Ethic Media Awards. I'm going to be awarded with the Innovators Award for my contribution to online broadcasting. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. So there's other things I could share, but I'm just going to keep it short. And I just wanted to, again, thank you again for Stephen for jumping on. Thanks for Joint Specialists for jumping on. I've done a test, and I see that it broadcasts on YouTube, but it did not broadcast on some other platforms. So I'm going to cycle back with the powers that be at Get Vocal, and we'll take it from there. So I like to sign off with these things these days. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up is sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Finally, block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim wider. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch us live, and there'll be more to come. God bless, peace be well, and where I come from, we like to say walk good. Thanks again, Stephen. Thanks for anyone else who's watching this on the replay. Thanks, Joint Specialists. Be well.